Welcome back everyone. This is the Techniques turntable that I recently painted as part of my solo exhibit here in New York City. It's currently hanging at Booney Coffee, a local coffee shop that's in my neighborhood in Washington Heights.
Thoughts of you in my mind.
In this painting, I wanted to have a green wash all over the painting, and this was to be consistent with my other works in the show, which are all about machines, and I wanted to have this sort of fluorescent greenish glow in all of the works. And so all of the pieces actually started out with this light green wash that I put over it. You can see that there are some parts that are resisting it, like where the arm assembly is at the top right of the image, and that's because there's liquid mask there. I used some liquid mask to preserve the white of the paper, basically to represent some of the brightest highlights in the image. So you can see that on some of the metallic surfaces, and we'll see that later. They'll appear bright when I remove that. Basically, I use this green called perylene green. It's a very cool green. I love using it in my paintings. Here, it's going to cover the entire surface, and it will actually help the turntable integrate and be part of the whole scene. So it's not like the turntable is just one color and then the background is another color. This way, there's actually, like nature, there's actually light that's coming off all of the objects in the scene, and it's reflecting onto the turntable. So we'll see many elements kind of reflect this greenish cast. I wanted to be able to show some of these brightest highlights on the metallic portion of the arm and the arm assembly that's at the top right. And you'll see later when I remove the liquid mask that those areas will seem like shiny parts in the scene. Because this turntable is sitting in front of a bank of windows, I wanted to be able to show some of the light coming in, reflecting off of the vinyl record itself. And this actually would just make it slightly more interesting. Otherwise, if it was just a black disc, it wouldn't be as interesting to look at, and it doesn't convey a sense of the texture of the record and the environment around us that we can't see as well. You can see on the vinyl record itself, I've added some green to show some of the foliage. I'm starting to darken the areas that are in shadow, that are basically the pieces of the window frame in front of us that are dark, that are behind the light. And then we have these vertical portions that are part of the window pane. And I'm using a wet on wet technique on the vinyl record itself. So wet on wet is where basically you've wet the paper first, and then you apply paint into that area. And that helps with getting coverage over a large area of paper. It also helps with making some areas more diffused than others. So like the band in the middle of the record, I actually wet that whole area first and then applied some dark paint into that. Now the record player is actually sitting on top of a wooden entertainment console. So I knew that I wanted to have some of that wood brownish color reflecting back into the scene somehow. So the windowsill that's behind the record player, I'm actually applying some of my burnt umber and burnt sienna onto, just so that it's clear that the record player is actually sitting on a surface. This way there's some warmth in this scene, and it's not just a metallic object with some shiny parts. I wanted to have some warmth, which also helps to offset the turntable from the background a bit. It's helpful to actually start the entire painting with this one greenish tone over the entire piece because it's a little bit less intimidating when you're staring at a white space on a piece of paper. And this way I'm actually thinking about building up depth and volume in the scene by using a monochromatic approach. So there are certain parts in this scene where it started off as a green base, and in order to create some volume or the sense of a shape in a particular area, I'm actually using green to keep darkening that particular area to give us the contours or the dimensionality of it. So you can see that I've used some green. I've also used some blues and browns mixed together as a dark value, and I'm putting it on top of the green, and that helps to darken it even further. So you can see I've used greens to build up some of the areas in the scene, and on top of that, to get some of the really dark values, I'm using a mixture of blue and brown where I can have a cool and some warm colors mixed together to give a sense of volume and depth into some of the pieces that are standing out. And that also, by adding some brown to it, it also keeps it from keeps it from being completely lifeless. So adding warmth to a dark area actually will help keep it feel alive and substantive and not just a black space on the paper. I always love this stage where I'm starting to really get into the darks and I'm able to go in and really make certain things stand out and pop, and adding that contrast, it really just helps to bring the painting to another level. I always say to my students that there is an ugly phase to every painting, and with watercolor that's certainly the case. There's always this part where you kind of have to force yourself to keep going because you just can't stand the way it looks, and I passed that point at this stage. I briefly DJed at various clubs here in New York City. I was an underground music producer. I created electronic music that basically got released on various labels around the world. These were smaller labels. I'd get invited to play at clubs because of my releases, and it was a lot of fun. But honestly, it never really felt congruous with the rest of my artistic journey. And that's partly because the music I liked to actually make, they weren't bangers on the dance floor. This was music that you put your headphones on to listen to on your commute or late at night in your bedroom. So in my DJ sets, basically I try to play one or two of my own tracks, but mostly I would end up playing my favorite tracks by other artists. So while I DJ'd to keep the dance floor moving, it really wasn't about sharing the music that I created. If I only played the music that I created, the dance floor would clear out. I'm putting some finishing touches, adding this light to the bottom left side of the platter. That's a light that's actually, it pops up from the surface of the turntable, and it actually allows us to see the dots, the beads that are on the sides of the platter. They're moving, and it's a physics thing, but it's really cool when it shines a light, this bright red light, onto the spinning platter. You can see them start to line up or get misaligned just based on the BPM, the beats per minute. I never really learned how to DJ just by using that, but it's an amazing tool that they created for performing in a dark environment like a DJ would. When I was DJing, I was listening to the music from the ears of the people on the dance floor. And that's the same approach I bring to my painting. When I'm painting, I'm inspired. I work to create things that I'm inspired by, but I'm also thinking about the end result. What is someone going to see in my work? How are they going to take it? What effect will it have on them? What emotion are they going to feel? And I think this is a really valuable lesson to learn. So even though I'm starting out painting something that inspired me, I'm also looking at it from the eyes of a potential viewer, potential art collector, someone walking by at an exhibit who might stop to look at my work. What are they thinking? What would they see? What would they learn about me? If you enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe to see more of my works. You can also visit my website, art-francis.com, to see all of my original works and the prints that I offer for sale. Thanks.